Welcome to toy-polloi.
It's that time of year and I'm back in Tokyo again, and now we no longer have Toys R Us in the UK or US, it's one of the first places I like to check out. There are a number of these dotted around Tokyo, and along with plenty of toy lines you will recognise, you'll see some lines exclusive to Japan, so make sure you check out at least one Toys R Us as you'll see some things you didn't know exist. Next up, I headed to Akihabara, which is now so well known amongst toy collectors that finding a bargain is getting harder and harder. There are still some shops that stock a good selection of vintage toys like Robot, Mandarake and Golden Age, but prices over the last few years have shot up as the area has become a huge tourist trap, so expect to do a lot of searching before you find a bargain, but it's still well worth a visit. Another couple of mainly electrical goods stalls that are worth looking at are Labby and Bic Camera. You'll see these stalls all over the place, and they have a floor dedicated to toys and computer games. Prices are often cheaper than you'll find in Toys R Us, especially if you're into Ultraman vinyl toys. Nakano Broadway is still the ultimate toy collector's hunting ground, with 3 floors jam-packed with shops, but much like Akihabara, prices have been on the rise, so you have to have a really good look around to find the bargains. And there are still bargains to be found. Expect to spend a full afternoon checking out what each shop has to offer. Hidden in the back streets of Kichijoji is one of my favourite shops, Toy Catcher Showcase. The basement shop is crammed full of a wonderful selection of toys. And if you're into Microman, Micronauts or Henshin Cyborgs, you will not be disappointed. This year I came prepared and brought a suitcase full of toys to trade. So after 2 weeks in Tokyo, it was time for me to say farewell to friends old and new and return to the UK. But I couldn't leave without one last trip to Diver City in a diver to see the life-size Gundam unicorn robot. It truly is amazing. So let's head on back to toy-polloi and check out all the things that I managed to pick up on this year's trip to Tokyo. So I'm now back here at toy-polloi after a very long flight, and we can take a look at some of the bits that I picked up. Now this is the first section of sort of miscellaneous bits that I picked up in various shops. At the back you can see there are 3 vinyl Ultraman toys. Now these I picked up in just a sort of little backstreet toy shop, but as I said in the start of this video, you can pick these up pretty cheaply in Big Camera or Labby. I think they cost about let's see on this one. These were 480 yen, so that's about £3, something like that, which is really cheap, I know, and they are fairly simple figures, but I do like these sort of fairly sort of basic vinyl toys. They're really designed to be played with, and all of the monsters that sort of attack Ultraman are particularly weird. I'm not really up to date on the names of these, but as you can see, this one is some sort of sea creature. The one in the middle always well, sort of reminds me of something from the Mighty Boosh, if you watch that here in the UK. Very strange looking guy. And then there's a black Ultraman on the right. If you know the names of these, then please drop me a line, because I would like to know them, but it's not something I ever sort of can remember. There's just too many of these monsters. I also picked up another of these little Tomy Takara metal Star Wars figures. These again you see all over the place, and they vary in price, but Big Camera and Labby do tend to have them the cheapest. This was an R2-D2 in resting mode. It actually says it very tiny, sort of tiny there, actually standing pose is what they call it, as you can see there, because his middle leg is hidden away, and the main part of these figures is made out of metal, and then the legs and arms are sort of made out of plastic, but they're just much nicer than sort of modern Star Wars figures that Hasbro are producing. They just feel like they've got some weight and some sturdiness to them, and the paint jobs and finishes just a lot nicer, so I've been picking these up as and when I can find them. Also picked up this little sort of Diaclone Microman knockoff single wheeled bike. It's got a sort of friction wheel here, what you can see, and it's just a little single wheeled bike. Very odd looking thing, but it sort of grabbed my attention. And then the last of my sort of odd selection of bits is this book, which is a book about sort of Star Wars collectibles. Now I found this in a shop called Village Vanguard, which you do see all over the place. It's a shop that stocks just oddities really, and sort of little kitsch bits from various sort of franchises and the like, but this is a book about collectibles for Star Wars, and as you can see there are sort of pictures of strange Japanese only Star Wars collectibles and all sorts of things in it, but the reason I picked it up was because even the section that they've got on vintage figures, if you look here, all of the figures don't actually have their original weapons. Some of them are clearly reproduction weapons. You can see Han there has a reproduction blaster, and there's the Rebel Commando. He's got the wrong weapon. Some of them don't have weapons at all. So considering this looks like a fairly official book, it's a Disney Lucasfilm licensed, the pictures in it don't actually show original things. So I think for the hardcore collector this is probably something that would annoy them, but it's a strange little book with lots of pictures in it, so I picked that up as well. Now let's look at some of the other bits I got. Now, as I mentioned earlier in the video, I thought prices were going up and up, especially in places like Akihabara and Nakano, which are getting a little bit more sort of like tourist traps. And so it was a little bit harder for me to actually find some things that I wanted to buy. But in Akihabara, I did manage to find this Microman puzzle. Now, last year I bought one which came with a special limited edition Jason figure, and this time I found another version which comes with the Microman command. I think this guy's name's Eric or something like that. It says it on the side. I can't actually read it there. Should say somewhere what his name is, but anyway, it's an orange Microman command figure, and this was unopened, and I got this for 1,500 yen, which is about £10, and it's actually worth it just for the figure. The puzzle I'm not that keen on. I didn't ever do the other puzzle that I got, but this one, if we open it up and see inside, we have a limited sort of run of the Microman command figures. If I open this up, you'll see there he is in all his glory. So this figure you would only be able to get in this puzzle box. So it's just quite a nice little figure to add to the collection. And for £10, I think the figure is actually worth it. The puzzle, I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do with it. It will just sort of go up in storage for the moment. And then when I went to Nakano Broadway again, it's hard to find some sort of good stuff at a decent price, but I did find two more of these. These are sort of UFO Catcher Toys. So these were the sort of things that you'd go to a machine, you know, where it has the claw game and it would grab things out. And these I paid 600 yen each for. I've already got the blue one, so I'm now just missing the clear plastic version of an original sort of Micronauts Barefoot time traveller. Now these aren't the greatest of figures, they're sort of limited articulation and then sort of all painted bits on them, but they are a nice little oddity, and if you've seen my previous videos, I do like the sort of odder things, so I thought those were quite a good couple of little figures to pick up, and actually pretty good prices. But the rest of my time in Nakano Broadway I couldn't find anything that I wanted. Next up we have a selection of stuff that I picked up at Toy Cat Showcase. Now Ishii, the owner, is becoming a good friend of mine, as I've popped in there for the last few years, and we always do a good bit of trading. I now take stuff specifically that I can swap with him, and that means that I can get some good things that I wouldn't normally be able to afford. And as you can see here, I did pick up quite a lot of stuff this time. So the first thing I did pick up from him is another Microman Titan Command. Now this is T452 Poseidon, and he comes with this I think it's called a Gimmicker F1 car. Now I do like these Titan Command figures because they are magnetic. You can see you can pull the arms and legs off and they sort of stick into little magnetic slots on them. And this guy, because he comes with a car, you can actually take the top off the car. I can pull off his legs and he magnetises into the car and becomes a little driver. So it's got some quite nice little gimmicks. Now these are sort of quite rare to find because they're easily broken, so this was one of the things that I traded for. Then there's another rarity, which is this very early issue Microman Time Traveller, as we know them here in the UK. Now you can tell this is an early release one because he's a lighter shade of blue. I think Ishii said this was the sort of third issue, so it doesn't come with the bare feet, which is the very early ones, but this is certainly an earlier version, and I'm pretty pleased to get this. His name is Jesse, and this is M103 if you know the names of them. Then I also picked up, this is a sort of modern issue version of a Barefoot Time Traveller. They reissued these in about the year 2000, and there's various different versions of them, but you can see here that he has oops, falls out the packet. You can see he has bare feet rather than the shoes. Now again, these are not so common over here in the UK, but you can pick them up sort of a little bit easier in Japan, and I do like the fact they come in these little cases, so they're nice and easy to display. And that was just a nice bright yellow one there, and this was a Toys R Us exclusive release in Japan, so I don't think you would actually be able to find that here. I also got a reissue version of, I think this guy's name is John, but I always think his name is Jason, but this is the Barefoot version. Again, this is from sort of about 2000. Now if I was trying to get an original version of this, it's ridiculously expensive. This is still only about £10, but an original version would set you back an awful lot more. And I did get one other guy here, which as you can see, which is another sort of modern reissue. This is a sort of golden exclusive figure. I've got all the paperwork for it as well. You can see it says on here what his name is. He's a Golden Age exclusive from 1999. Just quite a nice figure. I like the colouring on him, so I thought it was a nice one to pick up. Not the most common of figure that you'll see, and again comes in a nice little case. And the final poor little guy you'll see on the left here, this is Max. Now I took a figure with me which is my Max here, who I unfortunately broke his arm, so he was armless, and I said to Ishii, do you have a spare arm for me that I could sort of trade or buy off him? And he found this figure, which is another Max with the other arm broken, so he actually very kindly gave this to me, so I can now fix my Max and have one that has two decent arms, and the other bits I'll just sort of keep in the background. I might be able to use for something else, so big thanks to Ishii for finding the missing arm for this little Max. Now in the background you can see some other larger figures, so I'll move the camera around and we can take a look at those. So here are the larger items I picked up at Toy Cats. As you can see, I got a reissue version of, this is King Walder Jr. Now if you're in the UK you would know this sort of shape of the head as a Muton, but in Japan he's called King Walder, and this is a reissue again from sort of 2000 in a nice sort of neon yellow colour. Now Ishii had quite a few of these in boxes, so I actually picked up two. This is just one I've opened so you can see what the figure's like, because I do quite like this scale of figure. He's about about 8 to 10 inches tall, and like all the other sort of Cyborgs figures, you can take bits of him off and swap them out. So I thought I'd just grab a couple of these. I was thinking maybe I could do a custom with this one, but we'll see, because it's quite nice to have one box and one loose just of these sort of vintage style figures. And Ishii also very kindly gave me this, which is a Neo Henshin Cyborg. So this is a modern version of a vintage Henshin Cyborg. Again, this was from, what's it say there, 1998. And they did all sorts of versions of these with different colours inside, and they each come with different weapons. As you can see, this is a blue version of the Neo Henshin Cyborg, and it comes with a big sort of plant-based, well, it looks like a rose or something, a rose sort of tentacle covered in thorns, but he does look pretty cool. And this was a gift from Ishii, as I did take some presents for him and his wife, so a very kind gift there. And one last thing that I did buy from Ishii, which is something I really wanted, was a original vintage Henshin Cyborg Jaguar. Now these are something you very rarely see here in the UK, and if you remember last year I picked up a Henshin Cyborg, which is a 12-inch versions of these guys, so I thought I would time to pick up the Jaguar. Now again, like all of these sort of old Cyborg figures, you can pull their limbs off and swap them out, and this is something that is a quite sort of nice gimmick, and the fact that they're nice and clear and you can see inside is really cool. So I picked this up from Ishii. This was about 5,000 yen, so it's about £35, so still not hugely expensive, but if you tried to get one here in the UK it would be considerably more than that. And again, because I picked that up, Ishii very kindly added this to the deal, which is a set of sort of alternate limbs for him. So there's a different head, a different tail, and some strange sort of cyborg feet to add to him. And there are lots of packs of these sorts of things that you can get if you want to collect them all. You can see on the back there's other ones with different sort of beasts and things. There's what's it like tigers and dogs and lions and all sorts of things that you can get to add on to your Cyborg Jaguar. So that's a nice little addition there to my collection. Now, on an evening out with Toy Cats Ishii and his wife, we met up with another guy who had found his shop via one of my videos, a guy called Stephen Kim, and it was really nice to meet him, and we had a great evening chatting about toys and that. And he very kindly gave me these 3 other Neo Henshin Cyborgs because he'd seen that I liked them, and he also thought that one of them would be a great project for the channel, which I have to say it's going to be. Now these again, the modern versions of the Henshin Cyborg, so all from sort of 1998 time, and there are some great ones. I think this is a Toys R Us exclusive because it comes with a head that looks a little bit like Jeffrey the giraffe there, and some other strange limbs. There's another clear one with a sort of lobstery type claw or some sort of crab claw on him. And then there's this poor guy on the right, which has fallen to pieces. They are held together by a rubber band of sorts, and that has perished over the years. So this is a project that I'm going to cover on this channel, because I don't think anyone's actually shown how to repair these sort of modern versions of the Cyborg. So that will feature very soon on the channel once I've worked out how I'm going to fix it. Another good friend I get a chance to catch up with when I'm in Tokyo is Tokyo Toy. Now, we do tend to do little trades during the year, but I always save up a lot of good stuff to take over and swap with him because we have similar tastes in toys. And this time I took over a whole load of Action Jax figures for him, and he gave me this pile of stuff in return. As you can see, it's some quite nice projects for me. He always knows that I like things that aren't necessarily mint, so it's good to get a bag of broken stuff. I think a lot of people would get this and go, what on earth am I getting into? But for me, the more broken stuff I get given, the better. So he gave me a nice selection of Microman spy magicians in various states of being broken. As you can see, there's a little bag here of pieces. This guy's lost his legs. This guy's got a foot broken. I've actually had a little quick go at this one just to see if I could fix it, just to see what was going on. But these will feature in a future video because there's some sort of interesting breakages there that I want to cover. He also gave me the case for another little Microman figure, always useful, and some Ghostbusters bits, because I've had people asking about these Ghostbusters proton packs and how to fix them, and he very kindly gave me some broken bits to proton packs. And I think this is Ray here with sort of an almost complete proton pack, but it doesn't actually clip onto his hand. So again, that's something I can look into in future, how to fix those. And then there are a couple of little gifts for Mrs. Toy-polloi. She does like Ultraman as well, and he gave me these tiny little gold Ultraman figures and a little sort of rubbery Ultraman figure there, which are going to go on display in Mrs. Toy-Polloi's tiny collection that she has here of Ultraman bits. Possibly the most unique thing I got on this trip was this apron. Now this is something that someone was wearing in an Takara bar that Tokyo Toy went to, and he very kindly has given this to me, and it's lovely. I don't really know what I'm going to do with it. He said that I could wear it while I was toy fixing or sort of painting stuff, but it's too good for that, and it's too unique. It's the sort of thing you will never see anywhere else. It's obviously been well loved and well used by the bar staff because it's pretty dirty and grimy. I've actually given it a good wash, so the grime that's left on there is just what's left after it's been given a good wash. But you can see it is clearly Star Wars branded. It says Star Wars there at the bottom, and it even has the Lucasfilm logo. But it's the sort of thing I don't think I'll ever see again, so I'm going to try and find some way of displaying this here because it's just so unique, and I don't want to sort of damage it at all. It's too nice to wear for fixing toys in, so a big thank you to Tokyo Toy Bar. Very kindly given this to me. It's a lovely thing, and I'm really amazed to have this in my collection. Now here we have something you probably wouldn't expect to see on this channel, which is a couple of dolls. But I have a friend locally, Kathy, who runs Jolly Dolly Shop, and she restores all of these sort of vintage Cindy's and Barbies. And I'd mentioned to her before that we go to Japan, and she'd said that she'd like to have a couple of these dolls, and they are called Licker dolls or Rika dolls. And this is the sort of Japanese equivalent of Cindy and Barbie, and they've been going around for a very long time. As you can see, this is a sort of modern catalogue I picked up, and there's a whole load of different outfits. There you can see that's the name Licker, but they sort of pronounce it Rika dolls. These are, you can buy them new in Toys R Us, and they're about 3,000 yen each, which is about sort of £20. But in one of the hobby off stores that I go to, where you can buy lots of second-hand sort of toys and various goods, I picked up these two, and that one cost 200 yen and that one cost 300 yen, so it's under £5 for the two figures. And I'm sure she's going to be really happy with them because I know she wanted to get a couple, and she can make new clothes for them because they're a little bit on the tatty side. As you can see, these have been played with quite a lot, but she can work her magic and get these looking really nice. So those are some gifts for her. So as you can see, it was a pretty good trip for me this time. I got an awful lot of Japanese only issue toys, and that's the sort of thing I like to collect when I go to Tokyo these days, because there's a lot of stuff that you can get anywhere, but it's these sorts of things that I can only get when I'm in Tokyo, especially some of these rarer sort of Microman and Micronauts stuff that Ishii stocks at Toy Cats. His collection of sort of rare Microman and Micronauts things is really impressive, so it's always worth checking out his store, because he will have something that you won't be able to get anywhere else. And I just want to say a big thank you to everyone that I met this time as well, because it's really nice to be able to meet up with people who are fellow toy collectors and have the same sort of interests as me. And I also really like getting given broken toys, because that's what keeps this channel going. The more broken toys I get, the more things I can try and work out fixes for. So a big thank you to Stephen Kim, and also Tokyo Toy, the sort of selection of broken bits that they gave me, because they will get used in future videos. So if you've never been to Japan or Tokyo, I'd highly recommend going. As you can see, there's lots of things to see, and also a great selection of toys, more than you'll see anywhere else in the world, especially in such a sort of small area. So it really is worth taking the effort to go and just having a great time. The Japanese people are lovely. I've always had fun there, and it's always great to meet new people, which seems to be happening more and more every time I go. From running toy-polloi, people start to recognize me, so it's great to say hello to people who watch these videos. So I hope this video about Tokyo and Japan has been interesting, and thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching toy-polloi. Subscribe for more great videos. You can also follow toy-polloi on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram.